Alright, so now we have a really good idea what the software is supposed to be doing. I have a list of visual representation of the functionality and who the users are. I know what data I'm going to be tracking in my software system, and I also have a really good idea of what those reports are going to look like, the output or the reports are going to look like. I should make mention of when you're designing reports, you might have to go back and add things to your data dictionary. If you're adding fields to your reports that aren't included in your data dictionary, you're going to want to go back and update that data dictionary. So step number 5 is now to structure the flow of the program. Each and every single one of those use cases from step number 2 on your use case diagram is a functionality, a feature, something that the software should do. And what you're going to do during the design process is list what that functionality is. Tell me what it is. Tell me how that functionality works. We're going to create either a flowchart or pseudocode that lists out the steps in the process. Now, a flowchart is a visual representation of the logical flow of the program, when pseudocode is a plain language English flow. Structure of the logical flow. Both the pseudocode, which is the plain language English, and the flowchart should say exactly the same thing. They're just displaying it in a different manner. So let's say, for instance, that I wanted to list the steps in the process of driving to school one day. If I look at the pseudocode, which is right here, it's plain language English, I can say that the first thing I want to do is put the keys in the ignition and turn the key. If the car doesn't start, I'm going to call a friend to take me to school. If the car does start, I'm going to release the brake, put the car in drive to school carefully, then I'm going to remove the key. Either way, I'm going to get out of the car, and that is the end of my pseudocode, my plain language English. I see a flowchart that has exactly the same points as the pseudocode, except it is made up of choices and decisions and outcomes. Each one of the symbols on a flowchart means something. So the ovals mean something, the square boxes mean something, and the diamonds mean something. And I see arrows coming out of them pointing in the direction of the flow. If I read it, I also see this is a start. This is put the key in the ignition and turn. The decision says, does the car start, yes or no? If the car does not start, I'm going to call a friend, and I see the arrow takes me to get out of the car. My friend's going to drive me to school, and then I'm going to get out of the car. This other arrow says if the car does start, I'm going to release the brake, put the car in drive to school carefully, and remove the key. And then I see the arrow points me back to this box, which says get out of the car. And then the final oval is the end. So these two the flowchart and the pseudocode, are mapping out the same logical flow of my program. Just one is visual representation and one is plain language English. So what I'm going to have you do now is each member of your group is going to choose one of the use case diagrams. You're going to need to coordinate with your group, assign out so that each member has a separate use case diagram, and you are going to map the logical flow of your particular use case. What are the steps in the process to move through the successful completion of your use case? We're going to do this in plain language English because the symbols on a flowchart mean something. And so to keep it a little bit easier, we're just going to use plain language English, pseudocode. So if you're not sure how to get started on mapping out that flow, one of the things that you can do is you can start with 3 sort of global steps. What 3 things do I have to do to accomplish that task? And then I'm going to take each one of the 3 steps and I'm going to break it into 3 steps. And so now I have a total of 9 steps that take me from start to completion through my particular chosen use case. Once you have completed your pseudocode, I'm going to have you upload it to the file section of your group homepage.